Thank you. My name is Niaz Rahim, and I am another host of today's program. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our first speaker today, Dr. Mohammad Morshed. So, Dr. Mohammad Morshed is a clinical microbiologist and the program head of Zoonotic disease and emerging pathogens at the British Columbia Public Health Microbiology and Reference Laboratory, Canada. He is also a clinical professor in the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine, University of Columbia, British Columbia. Dr. Morshed also served on the Canadian College of Microbiologists Executive Board as the treasurer and executive board of the Canadian Association for Clinical Microbiology and Infectious Diseases. Dr. Morshed earned his master's from the Department of Microbiology, University of Dhaka, and Ph.D. from Yamaguchi University School of Medicine, Japan in 1994. He completed his specialty training at the Research Institute of Tuberculosis in Tokyo and from the College of Natural Resources, University of California, Berkeley. His research focuses on surveillance of zoonotic and emerging pathogens such as Borrelia burgdorferi, Treponema, Cryptospora, Toxoplasma, Helicobacter, West Nile viruses. His laboratory is also involved with the field study of zoonotic and vector-borne disease across the British Columbia and Canada. Dr. Morshed has published over 100 research articles, and he is recognized by national and international research community, and he received many awards. So, Dr. Morshed, you have 15 minutes for the presentation. We'll give you a 2 minute, two reminders. First reminder is after 12 minutes, and second one is 14 minutes just for your convenience. Now, I would like to hand over the session to you, Dr. Morshed. The floor is yours. You can share your slide, please.
Thank you, Dr. Niaz, for a nice introduction. I think the talk will be much shorter than the introduction. Whenever I talk to our forum, I always kind of become nostalgic seeing so many old friend, teachers, junior and senior students. So thank you all, and especially ISBM for giving me the opportunity to talk about these important topics. Number one thing that I'll go to the subject rather than going to any other thing. So today's session is clinical, that career track for clinical microbiologists. The main question that why you want to be a clinical microbiologist. So because I practice, so I'll say this is one of the best profession in microbiology, and I'll say why. And the only profession will give you, like, you know, that when I was kind of elementary or junior high student, we used to say that 2-in-1, 3-in-1. So it's kind of 3-in-1. So you have the opportunity to provide the clinical services to the people on a daily basis. So you'll get the daily output. That's what you are doing for the community, for your friends, for your relatives, for your everybody in the society. Then you will have an ample opportunity to do the research because you have the gold mine of samples and patient in front of you. And third thing, that you will be able to teach. So you are getting all three things together. So these are the responsibilities that a clinical microbiologist will have. So as I said, that bulk of your time will actually be invested or divested your lab responsibilities, like assist technologists interpreting the test, develop the test, oversight the quality QC, troubleshooting, and all sorts of other lab things that you have to do. Your 50% time you have to invest. And if you work in a kind of reference setting like myself, that in a BC Center for Disease Control Public Health Lab, we provide as a hub for the other facilities. So in that case, you have to provide lots of consultation to the infectious disease physician, family physicians, other medical microbiologists, clinical microbiologists. You have to do that. And for evaluation, you can evaluate a new product, or you can do some basic clinical research. You have to do a little bit of administration because you will be dealing a lot of money, because as you know, with the COVID, that how many $1 million we have to spend every single day. So you have to manage those administration as well. And as mentioned, that healthcare consultation, like teaching, healthcare consultation, like the selection and interpretation of test to the family physician, infectious disease physician, and sometimes discuss with the case and other thing, and participation in the hospital communities as well. So now, why the clinical microbiology track is not good for everyone? This is a track, but I don't think this will be for all of us. That we have to first decide whether we love this area or not. This is most important thing, because you are entering to an area like you are making sure that you can handle it. It's a very hard work, and you can't avoid. Sometimes you want to avoid, but you can't. It's a 24/7, 365 job. So there is no evening, no night, no day, no Sunday, no Saturday, no Friday, nothing. Have to keep yourself updated on a daily basis, because you have to know that what's happening globally, not in your community. It's a globally on microbiology or microbiological aspect, with the disease outbreaks, epidemic, pandemic, all sorts of things. You have to know everything every day. High stress during any outbreak, as we are going through now with COVID-19, and I don't need to explain that. And this is not your own work. Always you have to think that you are a part of the team. So as for example, with due respect, university faculty, especially I graduated from Japan, so that is a called COSA system or professor system. Professor is the god. So what professor saying, that is the only thing. But here you are one piece of the puzzle. So that you have to always keep in your mind. So now everything has a kind of requirement. So clinical microbiology track is not any different from other track. So you need to have a PhD in microbiology to be a clinical microbiologist. Then you have to have a postdoc, preferably in the field of microbiology if possible, at least for 2 years or so. And then I'm telling now is a formula, is a classic formula. Then I'll tell that how I or Samir or other, Samir is my classmate, so I'm telling him by name. So please don't other, Samir will not get offended, but other don't get offended because why I'm calling is Samir. So Samir and I went through different path, and I'll mention that little bit. And then after postdoc, that is not mandatory to work in a hospital or any public health microbiology lab setting for another couple of years, and then complete, if possible, clinical fellowship training is actually 2 years. Some people takes 3 years, and then you have to sit for an exam, and then you get certified, and then you are on the way to your dream. So now this is one of the classical rotation that I know, and there are many others. So if you go to the NIH, so if you get a National Institute of Health Fellowship in Maryland, so then it's a 2-year fellowship. So first year rotation and on call, you will be doing specimen processing, bacteriology, mycology, microbacteriology in fungus, parasitology, molecular diagnostic, virology, and that all designed accordingly with the how many weeks you will be spending. And this, and also you have to have external relation with other laboratory like John Hopkins or Maryland, because you will be going there for their some sorts of spending time, that how they are running their lab. And you will be also doing some other additional research rotation. And then after 1 year, that you can go back to your own places and do some clean micro in training, or you can even do inside the NIH. You can attach to a lab, and you can do the section oversight, on call research, everything. So as you are practicing as a medical microbiologist, and this time that you will be getting a kind of minimum salary to survive. Just you will survive in the basement. You will not have any luxury or anything. And then, so then after fellowship, like or self training, that I'll be telling you later, that what else you need to do other than learning clinical microbiology. And that is, I think I saw that when you are starting your program you mentioned networking, one thing, so that is most important. And I mentioned networking and networking. Without network you will not go anywhere, because you don't know everything, you don't everything, because there are thousands of clinical tests. Your lab may have 100, and 900 you have to depend on others. So you need to have the relationship with other lab, other colleagues and everything. So now then, for sitting exam, there are many of them, not many, there are few, but you have to choose that fit you. But my recommendation, that is better to go for ASM ABMM. So that is the most I'll not say easiest one, but that is the most available in many countries. I don't know whether the Bangladesh have a kind of exam center there, but many countries in the world have exam centers. So you don't need to come to USA to sit for exam, but certain exam that you need to come to the country to give the exam, as for example CCM, that Canadian College of Microbiology, you have to come to Canada to sit for exam. But for ABM you can sit anywhere and give your exam. So now, one thing, that when you finish that 2 years training and pass and get the certification, that no need to look for job while you will be working in that 1 year rotation. And then if you can show your performance, most often they will beg you to stay, or you will get many others offer. You could show your potential during the fellowship training, and then you don't have to look for job, the employer will look for you. So now, this is my one of the slide that those are dreaming for to be a clinical microbiologist from Bangladeshi background. And I know that how I came through, Samir came through, we all came through. So I think that I didn't see that Bangladesh has changed much, because I go there every year. So you have to follow this route if possible. So what should we do as a Bangladeshi microbiologist? So we need to think ahead of time, number one. So you have to start your game plan when you are at the end of your undergraduate degree. I mean that when you are doing BSc honors, you have to think that I want to go through that area. Try to do your master's thesis in a hospital setting if possible, or in the realm of clinical microbiology lab if possible. So I know that in Dhaka city there are many labs. So I did my master's at ICDRB, and many of us did in IPH and other places. And try your best to do PhD from a reputed medical microbiology department if possible. And if not, again, do related to a organism kind of involved in medical microbiology field. Doing postdoc using clinical microbiology fellowship is the best, but that is not for everyone. I'll remind you, and the reason is why: there are not many. There are only few postdoc the clinical fellowship available. NIH has some, and the big hospital like John Hopkins or CDC Atlanta or some Chicago hospital. I know that there's a big major hospital, they do have some fellowship program, but US has the most clinical microbiologist program. Canada, although we are very rich country, everybody says, but Canada, if you believe me, that we have only 2.5 clinical microbiologist fellowship program. One in Toronto, that is the permanent one. They always take a student every year, one student. The Manitoba, they have a place, but they only can take a student when they have money. So that's what I said, half. Alberta is another one. They on and off. If they have money, they take one or not. So getting into the fellowship is extremely difficult. So that's why the best to try for the fellowship. If you get the fellowship, that is the best. And if you not get the fellowship, that doesn't mean that you are out of the game. So is alternate to do postdoc from any reputed university and connect with clinical microbiologist in your area in connection with research. And then, as I mentioned, that follow slide 5, that 5, 8, 9, and 12. So I don't remember, but those networking and then getting to know the people that who you are hanging out with, and get some advice from your seniors, and then
Morshed,
that
you have 2 minutes.
when you are ready, then you are ready to roll. So that one thing in this particular area, you'll get the job satisfaction, you'll get the opportunity for helping patient, and as I mentioned initial, the clinical teaching research opportunity. Also you will get an entrepreneurial opportunity, because you can have your own business, because if you know the how to develop test, then as for example, you know that lots of rapid point of test people are developing, and they are raking
Sorry
millions
to
of
interrupt,
dollars.
sir. You have you have 2 minutes, sir. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So, and then initially for any profession in medical and clinical microbiology or microbiology, as a professor or as a scientist or other thing, you will get at least 40 to 50% salary more when you will start. As for example, in Canada, when you start as an assistant professor, you'll get $96,000 the most. But if you start as a clinical microbiologist, your starting salary will be about $140,000. So that is the kind of difference, and so that's why I think in that perspective also is better. And I'll stop there, because now I have 2 more minutes, because I thought I'll have less time. So, and I'll give you other tips, because this clinical microbiology is one of the subject, as I said, that is not for everyone. It's a 24/7 365, because and you are competing with a physician, because physician got their degree after undergrad, they got 4 years and they got 5 years FRCPC or something, uh, 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 but we are getting only PhD. So then what? And so we have to learn the medicine as well as the subject as a whole. So our responsibility is much more than a physician, because we are competing with a physician. We are doing exactly the job that a physician is doing. And I think that during this slide, I missed one slide. I don't know why that it happened. So this is the one that what certifications are available. So one is ABMM, and there is a link that I gave, so you can get every information. And there is FCCM, which is Canadian one, and there is FRC Path, which is British one. And why this subject is important, there is another two link. Then you can see that. But when I was moving the slide, I don't know why this slide didn't show up. So I don't know about that. Sorry about that. And other than that, I'll stop there. And if you have any question, I think the question answer will be at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morshed, for finishing on time. So we'll move forward the question and answer session. So the first question is from Dr. Azam Hussain from University of District of Columbia. So his question is like, what is the best way to get NIH Fellowship? Do we need to do PhD in USA or North America, or from all over the world where PhD they can apply for this
I
NIH?
think that they usually do an advertisement, but you have to keep track with them, or there are kind of email and enlistment. You can enlist with them as well. But best thing, as I mentioned, the network. If you have somehow a friend there, so tell them that when the advertisement come, so then you have to advertise. But best thing to get acquainted with their PI. That is the network. Without network, this fellowship is virtually impossible to get. So with the quality, yes, if you have kind of triple plus or 4+, you have a publication in Science and Nature and all sorts of things, you may be. But otherwise, the best thing, that see that who is doing the extensive research that your interest, work with them, somehow collaborate with them. There's lots of way you can say that I'm doing this, can I work with you, even from other organization. or share this, somehow get connected with them. That is the most important. But they do advertise their fellowship. CDC advertise their fellowship. But other university, you have to the medical institute like Chicago Hospital or John Hopkins, maybe Brad can tell more about the US hospital settings. But I know that you have to contact them personally if possible. But sometimes you see the advertisement. And in Canada, you will never see advertisement. You have to go through them personally and see that whether there is any availability, and they'll tell you upfront. But Toronto will always say that apply, and you will apply even if you do best. And that is the practicality I'm telling you. Is rough thing, but the bottom line, they have their chosen candidate, so they will take whoever they want, but you will go through the process that will give you some experience.
Okay, so then we'll move to the second question. The second question is from Rubel Patwari. It's a nice question. What could be the speculated tangible challenges for the microbiologists, especially who did PhD from environmental microbiology and want to attain the clinical microbiology research fellow?
Yeah, the good thing for ABMM certification, they don't care that which track you are coming from. You could be an environmental microbiologist, it could be a biochemist, it could be a geneticist, it could be anybody. But the main question, you have to pass the exam. And to pass the exam, that this course, that the slide if you have in front of you now is the rotation and call, you have to know all of this thing. And if you go to ABMM, they clearly say that what you need to learn. If you learn them, and there are another slide that actually I said that this one, that is fellowship abundantly available, obviously not. And then I said that what you have to do, this formula is there, but somehow the slide was not moving as I wanted. So study start to end the Mendel, Douglas and Bennett's Principle and Practice of Infectious Disease, this book, and ASM's Manual of Clinical Microbiology. And then you can get knowledge from ProMed, Medline, Endpoint, ResearchNet, ASM Clean Micro Resources, etc. Also, you need to update yourself for CLIA, that one of the certification process for the any laboratory testing, and also for FDA regulations, and also that that EU emergency authorization for testing. So those things you need to know to go through that exam. And if you go through the ASM website, you will know everything. So it doesn't matter you are environmental microbiologist or any other microbiologist, but better if you can get access to the clinical microbiology from the beginning, then you have the understanding. So you don't have to study again and again. And this is what you have to do if you are from the other areas.
Okay, thank you, sir. So we have one more question from Dr. Firdaus Hasan. He asked, like, you mentioned a clinical microbiologist can do research. Do they have to apply for grants? So the question is, like, if they're busy 24/7 with the clinical duties, how do they get chance to apply for the grant? Like, you also get a lot of grants.
Yeah. So that means that you have to work. Without writing grant, you will not get the grant money, but you always have some money for doing your small thing, like your routine validation of a test or evaluation of a test, that you can do from your the budget inside that you embedded. So you know that the new disease is coming, so you have to implement a test. So those small amount of money will be available. But if you want to pursue a particular thing, as for example, if you want to do a field research, you need hundreds of thousands of dollars that your organization will not provide you. So you have to write. And then for writing, yes, you are not writing by yourself. Again, the networking, you will be working with many other people. If you see all of my grants, there are
Okay, thank you, sir.
people.
Okay, that's
Hello?
great, sir. So I would like to ask one question that we have time, one more minute, few more minutes. So you said, like, you prefer to go for the exam in ABMMM. But I know about the Canada situation. So if we want to write for a licensing, we will have to do the 2 or 3 years postdoc training. So do you, in case of ABMMA, the American-based certification, do we need to do that kind of
No, that if you do
training
ABM,
of 2 to 3 years of postdoc?
Yeah, so that Canadian one also asked for 2 3 years postdoc, but Canadian one problem, that Canadian is a two-phase. One is you have to write theory exam as the ABMM, and then if you pass the theory, then you have to sit for a viva. So viva, their oral exam. So the oral one, there will be a big challenge. But ABMM, that's why I said that I recommend ABMM, because ABM do not have the oral, so only written. If you pass, you pass. And if you
Okay.
get ABMM, then you will automatically apply. If you apply for the FCMM in the Canadian one, automatically reciprocally you will get it. Again, if you get the Canadian one, then if you apply for the US one, then automatically reciprocally you will get it. So one is fine. So if you get one, another one you can get by default.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Because from the Canada, as far as I know, like before writing the exam, we need to do a clinical postdoctoral training from either University of Manitoba, Toronto, or Alberta for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we cannot write for the cert
No.
exam. Okay,
No.
thank you, sir. It was a really informative session. Thank you very much. And also special thanks to our audience for being with us.